right, good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. My name is Rick Cruz. I'm the chair of the Public Charter School Board, and I'm going to call our January 27th first meeting of 2020 to order. I am joined this evening, as I always am, by my full board here. I'll start on the right with Rogarda Ganjam, Steve Bumbaugh, Naomi Shelton, our Vice Chair Saba Beretta, Jim Sandman, Leah Cruci, and our Executive Director, Scott Pearson. As usual, we'll start with public comment before we get into the hearing, but as you all have seen, we have a special guest this evening who I think wants to say a few words, and if you want to sit at the witness desk, Mayor, we'd love to, or if you just want to stand, however, this is kind of unusual, so however you want to do it.
Okay, I'll take that. Well, greetings, everybody, and thank you to the members of the board. I'm delighted to be with you today. Oh, perfect. And I am and have been since last summer checking in with a number of our independent boards and commissions in the District of Columbia. You may actually be surprised by the number of boards and commissions that help set policies and govern very important functions in Washington, D.C. But there are actually over 1,700 people, like the people you see here, that serve on one of these boards that help to make very important policies and governing decisions for the residents of the District of Columbia. I want to also introduce a couple of folks to you as well. Our Deputy Mayor for Education, Paul Kine, who's in the front row, who works with me with our public education team, which includes DC Public Schools, the University of the District of Columbia, our Parks and Recreation Department, and the Public Charter School Board. And so we have been very pleased that Scott has participated with our public education team and help to guide the policies that serve all of the district's children. Also, Steve Walker is here. Steve is the director of my Office of Talent and Appointments, and he is responsible for helping to recruit and get fine folks like the ones up front appointed to various boards and commissions. I particularly point out Steve today because you too could serve on a DC board or commission. So please go to our website at moda.dc.gov to see if there is another way that you would like to serve residents of the District of Columbia by serving on one of our boards and commissions. I also wanted to take a moment to thank Scott for his excellent service to DC's public school children. So give Scott a big round of applause. Scott has certainly been in leadership here and has helped to build school choices for kids all across the District of Columbia. And I don't know what he's doing next, but I know he'll be great at it, and we wish him well. And we also wish the current board well because they have the big task of recruiting Scott's replacement. This is one thing I know for sure, that they will have great people to choose from. Our public education system is really the envy of the nation, and when we go out and talk about what we have been able to build here in DC in our urban school district that is showing year-over-year gains in reading and math, gains in all the subgroups of our children, we know that we are getting a lot right, and it is very important for us not to let up one bit in demanding what all of our kids need. So that's just a little preface to say that I'm here to check on you and let you answer me, ask me questions, and to see what's going on. So what is important about this time of the year as well is that we are preparing for our 2021 budget, which will start this October. We are privileged in a lot of ways in our city that we have been able to attract people and businesses and make really historic investments in public education. I've been mayor for 5 years. This will be my 6th budget, and each year the public education budget gets bigger, largely because we have been able to attract more people and families back to our public schools, but also because we have been very focused on keeping pace with making investments that match the rising cost. We have also been very focused on making sure that we have fair agreements with our teachers, that we are putting the types of special interventions in schools that serve kids where they need to be served, and of course making investments in quality school buildings and associated adults in buildings that help kids succeed, social workers, nurses, and mental health supports. And we will continue to make those types of investments. We are also very focused on safety and safety in our school buildings. And I know that is one concern that we have worked with Scott on over the years in making sure the types of supports that we can provide from DC government to help with school safety is important. There has been also another big focus of our administration, and that's been on school transportation. I think one of the first things that I talked to Scott about was how could we expand kids ride free on bus to stay focused on the train in all parts of the city and making sure they were served. I am frequently reminded of a time when we didn't have any kids ride free. Now it has been so ingrained in our system that I think people think it has always been the case. But it's really, I think we established that back in 2014, and it has grown and improved over the years. So I wanted, again, just to be here to say that our resources in the Deputy Mayor's office are available to you on a whole range of issues. And another thing that we work on, because there's so much that we can do to help manage issues from DC government to support the Public Charter School Board. Another thing that I know is a key factor for all of us when we're thinking about public education is how do we attract the best talent and retain the best talent. So affordability for housing is a huge concern for all of our workers, and we know it is one for our teachers as well. So in all of the things that we do, and most recently we have been able to make available surplus funds and make those available to the public charter schools. I asked in that transmission that we focus on how we can make our salaries competitive for our teachers, and that's hugely important to the work that we will continue to do together. So those are a few of the things that I wanted to hit on, but I wanted to make sure that I left time for members of the board and members of the public to ask us any questions.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. And I'd say many of the things you touched upon in terms of the full suite of different resources and the different ways the city comes together to support our students, in particular our most vulnerable at-risk students, is a constant theme in the conversations we're having. In particular, as we've spent a lot of time over the last 2 months asking different members of the community to weigh in on what they think the PCSB needs to do moving forward and how that should impact the next executive director, because as you know, we're in the midst of that search, so that what we've heard from families and parents in particular about how do we make this system coherent? How do we make sure that safety and mental health and all of those pieces, which we play a part in, but we're not the only one that plays a part in it, how do we make all these pieces come together? So thank you for those investments and prioritizing those pieces, because it all needs to come together. I'd also say one of those big pieces are facilities. So I'd like to also say thank you for the news today about the Farrabee Hope disposition and KIPP getting to open a second high school. It's a huge investment in a great charter network, and we look forward to seeing more facilities available to schools. So thank you for that work. I share what we have heard from these conversations around the ED search, because they've been incredibly validating, and they've been a great opportunity to hear parents and families and community members talk about the same things we're thinking about, which is how we play our role in the context of DCPS, and then all the agencies that are working to support, again, those students who may bring the most challenges to school, and that maybe as a city and as a country over decades we haven't always served as well, and now we are increasingly looking for ways to focus that. So our priorities moving forward are to continue to build on that, to make sure that every student in the city has an opportunity to be in a top school, and that we're meeting them where they are so that we can support them whatever challenges and whatever assets they bring. So thank you for being.
And I appreciate that. And it may be worthwhile kind of pausing a little bit on the, and probably most people in this room are familiar, but I have been a little bit surprised that others are totally unfamiliar with Scott's role and how Scott's role is filled and what my role is in it. So let me go there. So all of the folks here are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council. And it's their job to hire the executive director. And so I met recently, I think with a group of new charter school leaders, and kind of and had a conversation about this very issue. And so what I told them is, because I have had the experience of hiring folks who lead for children, and that we have gone out for some pretty extensive community outreach around the subject. I thought a lot of the qualities that people shared with us about what they were looking for the next public school chancellor may inform your process as well. So what we will do, I'm going to ask the deputy mayor to make sure that we share with you what we heard in many community-wide conversations with teachers, conversations with kids, and with the general public about what they were looking for in the next DCPS chancellor. You won't be surprised that people want somebody who knows public education, is experienced in public education. And a lot of times we hear about, in traditional public education experience, they want people to work together across sectors. You also won't be surprised that many DC residents don't make distinctions between DC public schools and DC public charter schools. They just want their kid to go to a great school, and a great school that is serving their kid where they are. Now we have some other priorities that we want: a great school in every neighborhood, at every grade level for families, and increasingly we want people to be able to be served closer to home. That is starting to be a factor that we see rising in the estimation of DC residents. So that is some work that we have done. We have put it in a report that is publicly available, and we will want to convey that to you as well.
Great, that would be fantastic. Are there specific priorities or areas beyond the ones you discussed that we can be helpful on as this board and PCSB does its work moving forward?
Well, yes, thanks for asking. For us, we just want to make sure, and I think as mayor, the folks hired me to make sure that their tax dollars are being used most efficiently to help the most people the fastest. And that's what we're looking for. And there are always opportunities, we think, to make sure that we are being efficient in how we do our work. And so as we move forward in serving public school kids, how can we best do that? What are the inefficiencies in our system? And how can we, with the deputy mayor, with the members of this board, and Chancellor Fairby, identify those inefficiencies, get rid of them, and let's serve kids.
Thank you. Any of our board members have a question for you?
Did you go? So I guess my question would be to either of you, to the deputy mayor or to you, Mayor Bowser, in thinking about how we make sure that we are collaborating across all of those channels, so all of the organizations and agencies that work with students. A few weeks ago, we had a meeting with the traditional school board to talk about the search for the ED. In recognizing that there should and can be more collaboration across those different channels, what are the best ways that we can start to move forward in having very deliberative discussion around where and how we can align on things versus there being this very segmented set of conversations and efforts that are happening? Sure.
So we concluded, I think, when around the time Paul started, a collaborative cross-sector task force that had existed for a number of years that I started when I became mayor. I think we got a lot of traction on some issues and, quite frankly, no traction on others. So I think that there's some things that we learned in that discussion that can feed more specific talks with us, as always, and with the board as specific issues arise. We always, the board is always included. Scott sits as a member of my cabinet, so he is there for all of the high-level discussions on budget, policy, procurement, safety, you name it, that every agency director in my cabinet has, and he participates in my public education group where we meet regularly as well. So that is a good venue, but we are certainly open to other specific policy discussions as well. I have asked the Chancellor to set up kind of regular discussions with the State Board of Education, and I'm happy to make he and the Deputy Mayor available for a similar outreach.
Thank you.
Thanks. Do you want to open?
I have a question. Yep,
Yeah,
Mayor
go.
Bowser, one question. As a mother now thinking about school options for your own child, what's going to be most pressing for you as you look at schools?
Well, I'm trying to figure out who she's going to be right now. I would like her to go to our neighborhood school, which is Shepherd Elementary, and that's probably where she's going. For me, I will tell you that she's getting what she needs out of school. Proximity to my home is also very important to me. I'd rather not spend an hour commuting. I want her to have friends in the neighborhood. I want her to be close to home. And if that school's right for her, that's probably where she's going to be.
Mr. Mumbo?
Do you have thoughts, Mayor Bowser, on one or two things this body could do differently?
Yes. So one conversation I had, one thing I will likely do differently, in talking to some of the public charter school leaders that I just met with, I realized that I use this body, this board, and specifically the executive director, as the spokesperson for the LEAs. And I don't know that that's right. Okay? And so that's one thing that I think that we'll do differently. We'll think about how we communicate with the LEAs like we communicate with DCPS, like I communicate with DCPS. So that's, you can imagine how hard that is though, right?
Because we do it.
There's a lot of them. But that has been kind of the shorthand that I've used in my mind. If I want to talk to the public charter schools, I'll talk to Scott. So that's kind of one thing that I'll do differently. But you may want to think about if there is a role here, for a way for that information to come from the LEAs to the board in some way so that you can actually speak in kind of one voice around what's going on. But that is something that I know that we'll do differently. I think that there is, if we want to talk with some real kind of practicality, some things that we can do around when we're going to have a new school, how does it fit into the ecosystem of schools? Geographically, the needs that have been identified. One very practical thing, but also serious, is like, what is the difference between a middle school that starts in 4th grade and 5th grade or 6th grade, and why are they all different? And how does that impact parents and their decisions? Those are some of the things that trick up to us as we're budgeting and things like that. Other things that we may have been able to say 5 years ago as needing to be addressed, I think that we have addressed. From how we count students at the beginning and audit, we've addressed those things, to how we're making sure we have enough crossing guards, school nurses, and police officers. We've addressed those things as well. So there are a lot of things that I would have said 5 years ago are just practical problems between how we communicate with each other or manage those public school dollars. I think that have really been addressed. There are a few more, and we're all going to work through them.
Thank you. Questions? Otherwise, we'll take a few questions from
Absolutely.
the audience. Does anyone want to get up and say anything while the mayor's here?
Yes.
Jack, can you come up here just so we make sure we get you on?
So the
Or there.
Mayor Bowser, Jack McCarthy, Apple Tree Institute. Like many people, you would like a school near where you live or work. Is it possible to offer incentives to developers to build schools, and particularly early childhood schools, into some of these new buildings that are being built for residences and offices so that people could have greater proximity? I think it requires planning at the very earliest level, and there have been groups that have met on this for some time. But if you put your support behind something like that, I think it could have a big impact.
That's a great question, and the answer is yes, with other priorities too. So a lot of what the district has put its priority for incentives and new development on is housing, and affordable housing, which remains our top priority. If you go in other neighborhoods, and they'll say one of the priorities is below market commercial rents, so that there's a mix of amenities. In some places, that it may be that the amenity that people seek is childcare or early childhood education. So I think that you point to a good way of us to be thinking about things is how do we use all of our tools to have more spaces built. Now we're very proud. In the last 3 years, we've added 1,000 new early childcare seats. And in some of those, it has been that we provided grant dollars to help expand with existing locations. And in other cases, people are opening up brand new. And in still other cases, we are using some excess space in district buildings. So we're always looking for ways from 0 to 3 and starting at 3 for new spaces. This year, for example, Stevens School will open with child care and early learning seats.
Any
Well,
other questions?
very good.
All right. Well,
Thank you,
yeah,
everybody.
thank
Looks like
so
you have a
much.
full agenda, and
Yes.
good luck to you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. We're going to turn to our public comment. Thank you. And Bree, Lenora, do we have the? Oh, there we go. Thank you, James. All right, we're going to turn to our public comment. I'm going to invite 3 people at a time. As always, anyone can either add their public comment now or after this meeting at publiccomment@dcpcsb.org. We have 6 individuals signed up for this evening. I'm going to start with Grace Hu, Kira Porter, and Alicia Peterson. If the 3 of them could join us at the witness table here. And we'll start with the 3 of you, and then I've got 3 more after that. And if you make sure your mic is on, you've got 2 minutes, and please state your name and or organization before you begin speaking.
Good evening. Is this on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Grace Hu, and I am testifying today as a parent from Southwest DC. I'm a member of the Amadon Bowen Elementary PTA and local school advisory team. I'm also a former teacher and an advocate for educational equity for all DC students. Eagle Academy's application to relocate to Half Street Southwest does not provide an accurate picture of the school landscape and demand for students in my neighborhood. In discussing how it hopes to recruit an additional 100 students to meet its projected enrollment of 250, Eagle refers to the presence of only 2 schools in the area, Van Ness Elementary and Amadon Bowen Elementary. It does not mention the fact that Appletree will have an expanded footprint and will need to aggressively recruit families once it opens at its new location near the Waterfront Metro, which is a 5-minute walk from Amadon Bowen. It does not mention that Amadon Bowen expanded to 5 pre-kindergarten classes last school year and could be opening a 3rd kindergarten class, that Amadon Bowen expanded to 5 pre-K classes last school year and could be opening a 3rd kindergarten class in the next few years. It does not mention that while Southwest DC is undergoing major development, much of the new residential housing has been expensive apartments and not affordable family housing. This means we have a finite number of school-aged children, and unregulated school expansions and openings create a zero-sum game for our schools. I urge you to conduct due diligence on the demand for seats and claims to have done community engagement before approving any future charter applications. If the main evidence for engagement is a 2-sentence letter from the local ANC, as it is in this case, that is not good enough, and you should hold applicants to a higher standard. Specific to Southwest DC, our ANC is only one of many civic organizations. Please help us avoid a situation in which we'd have multiple schools within a small area that are under-enrolled and subsequently underinvested. This will be bad for both charter and traditional public schools. In closing, I urge you to ask Eagle Academy the following questions. Exactly how and where are you going to recruit new families needed to hit your enrollment, other than the local ANC who may be engaged? And how did you engage the local community during the years you were located in the New Jersey Southeast location? Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Great. Thank you. Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Alicia Peterson. I live and work in DC. I'm a pediatric anesthesiologist and pain medicine physician at Children's. I'm a Ward 1 resident. And most importantly, I come before the esteemed public charter school board today as a parent who has 2 current Meridian Elementary public charter school students and 1 prospective student. So I'm here today because I enthusiastically support the Meridian Middle School move from the current location of 3029 14th Street Northwest to the 770 Kenyon Street Northwest, which is where the former Chavez Prep building is. That's currently vacant. And I enthusiastically support it for 2 primary reasons. One being is that the size of the current location of the Meridian Middle School frankly does not any longer suit the capacity of the student body. The kids have spilled out of that school. Not only subjective observation, but objectively we know that Meridian is growing based off of its park growth targets. As it being named a leveler per the Education Policy Institute. In light of the conversations that we've had surrounding proximity, that leads to the second reason why I enthusiastically support the move to these Chavez School. Being that it is vacant, it is in Ward 1, and we want to keep the feeder school from Meridian Elementary within Ward 1, where I'm currently residing, and many of the families who have their children in Meridian Middle School reside. The concern is that if we don't obtain this property, this could displace many families, particularly families who do have children at the elementary campus as well. So acquisition of the Chavez Prep location would meet both the strategic and the logistical goals of Meridian at large. So in closing, I will say that if we do not obtain the Chavez location, as a parent who has children in Ward 1, live in Ward 1, I would hate to have to no longer be a part of Meridian. It is considered a part of our family. And we certainly want to, by all means, support the move, and we're delighted absolutely with the possibilities that this provides, as the Chavez School does have 20 large classrooms, it has a gymnasium, and it does allow that capacity for Meridian to serve them scholastically, academically, and athletically. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to both of you. Both the Eagle and the Meridian location will be on the hearing tonight, and we'll be voting on it next in February. So more to come following on from public comment. So again, Kira Porter, if she is here, Brazil Cruz, Devin Underwood, and Jamie Seitz. If any of those four who are on my list could come forward. Kira Porter, Brazil Cruz, Devin Underwood, James Seitz. All right. And the same, make sure the mic is on. You have 2 minutes, and please state your name at the top. Yep, there we go.
Okay, good evening. I am a former student at Meridian Public Charter Middle School, and I'm currently in the 7th grade. And today I will be testifying the relocation of Meridian Public Charter Middle School. Meridian Public Charter Middle School should get the building on Kenyon Street because it will help expand the students' educational opportunities. For example, if we had a bigger gym, we had the new building, we could do more activities in the huge gym that will help the students learn more and experience physical education better. And if we had a full science lab, we could do more hands-on activities, which will help the students understand how science is connected to the real world. And there are so many classrooms, which means we can have more elective classes like drama, dance, and art, which will give an amazing school and life experience at the same time for the students. And in conclusion, Meridian Public Charter School Middle School should get the building on Kenyon Street because it will benefit the students, which is the first place which the school exists for. And it will help benefit our education as well. Thank you for giving me this moment to testify for the relocation.
Great, thank you. And your name? We missed that.
Brazil Martinez
Brazil.
Cruz.
Thank you, Brazil. Excellent. You may need to press the button at the base.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. You're on.
Hi, I'm Kira Porter. I'm in 7th grade and I'm currently a student at Meridian Middle School. Since I've been at Meridian Middle School, I have grew socially and academically. The teachers and staff are very welcoming and I'm grateful for all the knowledge that they have given me. If we were given a bigger school, we would be able to share this knowledge with more students. Meridian excels in athletics as well. With additional students, we will be able to participate in more challenging events like a football team that can actually have contact, a basketball team, cheerleading. Our school will be able to have more extracurriculum activities. I, for one, am a dancer and there is no dance team at Meridian. And there are students that like to draw and we don't have an art class, so it's kind of challenging to include other talents if there's only two what am I trying to say? There's only 2 special classes like gym and music. Giving Meridian a bigger school could also improve us socially. We will be able to gain more students. This will help students expand their friend groups and step out of their comfort zones. I am, for one, an introvert and I don't like talking to people, but since I've came to Meridian, I've gained a bigger friend group and I've exposed myself to a happier set of view to how the world can be, because everybody at Meridian is so cheerful and I can just walk in there and smile and be accepted. Having more students can increase our attendance as well. If you have a smaller number of students, most likely it will count our attendance as a smaller rate because there's not enough students to count as to come every day. But if we have a larger amount of students, we will be able to have way more larger attendance and we'll be able to have more kids come to school and just get their knowledge like every other student at bigger schools. In addition to including more students, we will also be able to have a gym. PE class will have more physical fitness with a bigger gym. We will have a place for after-school athletic practices like cheerleading and basketball instead of having to borrow another gym and maybe not even be able to use it for games or practices. In conclusion, Meridian should get a bigger school because it will allow us to have more advantages as a school. It will allow us to grow and push larger amount of kids to success. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nice job as an introvert coming out and talking to this group. Thank you both.
Good evening. They made it pretty easy for me. My name is James Seitz. I serve as a health and PE teacher at Meridian Public Charter School. Recently, I earned a distinction of becoming the OSCE's member of the leadership cadre here in Washington, D.C. I've taught health and PE in D.C. Over 8 years now. In that time, I found that there are many different challenges and issues when it comes to when it comes to teaching PE here in the district. Space is always the issue. As a teacher at Meridian, space is extremely limited, as they just said. Our classroom, even more limited for an inner city DC school. With our workout space in the classroom, it's about 35 by 30 with low ceilings, which limits our activity, like they just mentioned. However, I found creative ways. I found ways to be creative with the limited space that doubles as our gym, and to take advantage of our limited choices for nearby outdoor spaces when available, if weather permits. Nevertheless, if we were able to utilize the fully renovated gym space at the question site, then I have no doubt that will greatly that the gym will greatly assist my efforts to ensure the students have adequate access in truly engaging rigorous fitness program. Like they said just a minute ago, it would definitely help with our after-school activities. The athletic program is nearly a mile walk for our students to go to a half-size gym at the moment at the Meridian Elementary School campus. It would probably be the small gym for the small kids works, but it does not work at all for middle school. This new access, the new access for the fully functioning gym would literally level the playing fields for our students, both in DC middle schools, both counterparts in public and private schools. Thank you for this evening. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming out. All right, we have two opportunities for public comment. I wanted to see if there was anyone else who had public comment at this point before we open up public hearing on Eagle, Meridian, and Two Rivers new locations, and then we'll have public comment another time.
Hi, before I start, I wanted to say that I have commentary that I would give as me, but that I would also like the opportunity to give commentary for several people who are unable to be here tonight. So is that okay?
Commentary as in multiple statements? Or?
One is from me, and the other is from people who cannot be here on whose behalf I would deliver it. They wrote it, and I would say it.
Okay, if you can submit it if you can submit their written testimony to us.
I have already.
Okay.
I did before I got here, but I was told that I could also deliver it in person.
Okay. How many individuals are you speaking?
It is 2 individuals along with their neighbors in Ward 8.
Okay.
So neither of them could be here. So anyway, my name is Valerie Jablin. I'm commenting as a DC resident on 2 applications for new campuses, Eagle and Meridian. Less than a year ago, Eagle was approved to have a school at 2345 R Street Southeast starting this year. Eagle's application now to sell that property means that Eagle received $20 million in DC revenue bonds to build a school that never opened. Continuing the public harm, it was only when your board report on Eagle was posted a few days ago that the public learned that 2345R would not be sold, but leased to another charter school. How are we DC taxpayers supposed to respond to being literally the last to know, while also having no say in what happens to a building built with our tax dollars and whose neighbors never wanted it? Similarly, shockingly, Meridian's application to take over Chavez's lease at DC's Bruce School at 770 Kenyon Northwest implies that Chavez was looking for the highest bidder. Indeed, in 2019, before closing its middle school there, Chavez told its DC revenue bondholders that it wanted to, quote, monetize the asset, unquote, that is 770 Kenyon. So we do not know what part of Meridian's $8.5 million bid to assume this lease represents profit to Chavez, how much of that will pay off DC revenue bonds used to renovate the property, whether 10 Square's concurrent contracts with both Chavez and Meridian affected each LEA's exclusive control in this deal, and why 770 Kenyon was not rented to another charter school this year rather than sitting empty for Chavez to monetize the asset. Even something as basic as Meridian's lease is obscured. Your board memo does not say if it will be finalized before your vote. We thus do not know if, as their application states, Meridian will be paying the same low rate that Chavez had in its 2007 lease. DC taxpayers have a right to know how public funds are used for our schools, but in both cases here, public funds appear to be used to prioritize the interests of operators over the interests of the public. Thank you. And I will just read the statement on behalf of Tina Batchelor and Camille Joyner, Ward 8 residents, as well as several of their neighbors who could not be here to do so tonight. Eagle's September 30th, 2016 amendment application stated that they had just found out a few weeks before their petition that they had to move from 2017 New Jersey Avenue Southeast. They had been in talks with the Naylor Road School about purchasing its property located at Naylor Road and R Street Southeast as early as February 2016 and completed purchase in August 2016. It appears they were trying to make the matter urgent. Eagle has claimed in separate applications in 2016 and 2019 that they had community buy-in. However, neither is true. At an ANC meeting in 2019, the councilman for Ward 8 denied giving approval for Eagle Academy at the R Street location. In 2017, the ANC voted against a letter approving Eagle at the R Street location. In Eagle's December 9th, 2019 application, they claimed to have some support from the current 8A03 ANC chair. However, the chair has directly denied giving such support. In 2016, Eagle Academy applied for a revenue bond for renovation and refinancing of the R Street property before they had the approval of the charter board. For 6 months, Eagle Academy constructed the building at the 2345 R Street location without a valid permit, and the project was shut down. After construction restarted, they were subsequently shut down and cited several more times for construction violations. If the charter board votes to approve this application, Eagle Academy now has the 2345 R Street property as a real estate developer and landlord. They are not intending to occupy the property, yet they still have the benefit of a low-interest DC revenue bond. If they are indeed a developer, they need to relinquish the low-interest bond and pay market rate for the property. Eagle Academy needs to choose to be either a real estate developer or an educational institution.
Okay. Thank you. All right. There is an additional public comment, and we'll have more public comment time when the public meeting starts. We're going to move on to our public hearing items. Nikhil, did I give you enough? time to get over to the, so Nikhil Vashi is going to come up and take us through the hearing items for Eagle, Meridian, and Two Rivers.
Hello, I'm Nikhil Vashi, specialist on the School Quality and Accountability team. This is a public hearing to discuss Eagle Academy Public Charter School's amendment request to relocate and rename one of its existing campuses, Eagle Academy PCS Fairlawn, effective for school year 2020-21. If the school could please join me with any representatives you have. If approved, this multi-campus local education agency will continue operating its program for grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 3rd at 2 campuses in Ward 6 and 8. The school's campus names will be Eagle Academy PCS Capitol Riverfront, formerly named Fairlawn Campus, and Eagle Academy PCS Congress Heights. Representatives from the school are present to answer any questions you may have.
You'd like to start with any opening remarks?
Sure.
Make sure the mic's on, Jim.
Am I good now? Yeah, okay, yeah. Eagle Academy originally looked, we have always been in Ward 6 since our founding in 2003. First, we were in the Blue Castle, and we're there for a long time, and then we also were on New Jersey Avenue with our other campus, where we still are today. So our intent and hope had always been to have a Ward 8 school and a Ward 6 school, because that's just our history. We were not able, after 2 years of searching, to find a location in Ward 6, as you might imagine, with all the construction going on down there. So we found a location where we could build a school in Ward 8 that was in a good area and a good neighborhood, and one we thought would be growing and developing with people coming in. Following that, we found just recently that we were able to find a location along the waterfront, so we could stay in our current Ward 6, Ward 8 situation. And there were also several charter schools that were desperately in need of space. So we felt it would be appropriate for us to take our building and offer it to those schools that just had no other place to go. And we found that with Lee Montessori. We have reached an agreement with Lee Montessori, who is in desperate need of that space to continue their growth. We also have worked on a lease agreement with Douglas Development Corporation for their new construction they have on Buzzards Point. We will actually, I think, be the first charter school, Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, actually put in a development, I think it's a 1,000-unit apartment complex that's going up along Buzzards Point, right across from the soccer stadium. So we thought that was a very good opportunity for us, and it would also allow us to remain in Ward 6, which were our historical roots. And so that's why we were able to do this. It's a little convoluted. I wish things had gone easier. I wish the space had been available to us much earlier, but it wasn't, because Buzzards Point wasn't going to be developed. And now it is. It got a soccer stadium. It's got a large complex going up and more coming. So there are going to be a lot of children in that area. And we feel it's important for Eagle to maintain its historical roots, and also the opportunity to serve the families on Buzzards Point with their educational needs.
Thank you. Board members, questions?
Just really quickly, do you have any response to any of the comments that were just shared?
I would just say that they do not necessarily represent the facts of the situation. We have kept Public Charter School Board, I believe, informed on what's going on and how it developed. And I would stand by what we have told and worked with Public Charter School Board.
And in terms of what was suggested as far as members of the public, just general constituents and residents here, could you walk through or give an overview of and clarify any of the statements that were made?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but there were people who opposed our school being there, but there were a lot of people who supported our school being there. We have petitions from Ward 6 residents or Ward 8 residents asking us to locate our school there. Karen, do you know how many people we have signed on that petition? About 500. Okay, and we did have a petition with 39 names on it opposing us. So everybody has their view, and everybody has, but we wanted to serve the community, so I thought that would be a good place to do it. When we took over that property, all 3 homes on that property were abandoned. It was rat infested. It was not conducive. There were people who did not belong to that sleeping there. And we have converted that property into a beautiful 22,500 square foot building. It will serve the community well. It has 12 classrooms in it. It has a full-size rec room. It has a playground. It's certainly meant to be a community space, a space that does not exist for that community now.
Thank you. You mentioned that there had been some families that expressed a desire for you to locate in Ward 8. So 2 questions. One, what is the school's plan to support families that would be traveling from Ward 8 to be able to access this facility? And then 2, I think the lottery is open. Will this location be listed on the lottery for families to apply to attend next year?
Are you talking about our Buzzard Point location?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the Capitol Riverfront.
Capitol Riverfront, yeah. School is Capitol Riverfront. It's been Capitol Riverfront for a number of years, and it's just going to move from its current location on New Jersey Avenue over to the Half Street location. So we have 169 students in there this year. I'm trying to remember. Karen, help me with this. I think it's about 120 if I got that number about right, that have indicated they would like to continue. Melissa, does that sound right?
Yeah, so for the second location, we worked with My School DC since there was some information around the actual location for this coming school year. So what My School DC has done is listed the location.
Okay, yeah, if you could just come up to the mic, sorry. Or maybe, yeah, or sit up at the dais.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, so with the information around the possibility of relocating to a new campus in Ward 6, we notified My School DC of the uncertainty of the actual location. So what My School DC has done is listed our Eagle Academy as just a second location, and then it says the actual address is to be determined. So the second location is already listed in the My School DC application. But once we receive approval, if it is approved for the Half Street location, they will update that information in the My School DC lottery. That information has also been communicated with our current families that are at the 1017 address of, if it is approved, that the location will move to the Half Street address for the coming school year. So those families we had a parent-family meeting that took place on January 17th to communicate that if approved, our campus for 1017 would actually move to Half Street. Of our current population, we currently still have 169 families that are enrolled and still attending as of today. Of that population, 120 families communicated that if we are able to obtain the Ward 6 campus, that they would be willing to relocate with us.
Okay.
And could you just state your name so we have
My
that
name
for the
is
record?
Melissa Hammett, and I'm in charge of registration and recruitment for Eagle Academy.
Thank you. you.
So I work with our current families and new recruiting families. I attend EdFest. So that's mostly the part of my role at Eagle Academy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this might be a question for both of you, so stay there.
Sure.
I read in our memo that you have a budgeted enrollment for Half Street of 250. You're at 120 now for people who've said they'll want to be there. So how are you going to make up the rest of that, the 130?
I think part of it is even with the current enrollment that we have at Capitol Riverfront, there was some contingencies around our certificate of occupancy and how many families we were actually eligible to enroll. So we did still have a wait list of families who actually wanted to attend the Capitol Riverfront campus once we actually informed families that we would be staying there. But some of the issue was around that occupancy that we have. Even with the application still being open, we still have some interest from families who actually wanted to do mid-year enrollment with us. But like I stated in the beginning, our enrollment is still at 169. We were audited for 170, so it's kind of held steady. So I think that with some of the families that would actually want to attend with new recruitment and those who actually have sibling preference and those families that are also willing to relocate from a Congress Heights campus, we would be able to secure our enrollment. If I could just indicate that currently we have 88 families that are currently at our Ward 6 school that are from Ward 8. So we actually have families that commute from across town, but some of it is, like I said, space accommodation and facilities. So I think we would be able to secure our enrollment ceiling at least at 230 to the 200, the 230 range to 250 in students.
I missed you somewhere. Okay, so you have 120 now. And
Yes, of returning families, yes, who have completed the survey of if they are interested, if we actually relocate to the Half Street address. Some families of the 169 were unresponsive to that survey.
Okay.
We currently have a survey that's still active where we're asking families to engage us if they would attend or not.
Okay.
But a lot of it would actually be new recruiting families as well.
That's what I think I was getting at, is how
Yes.
many people do you think are new recruits? Because part of the public comment was the idea that you might be pulling from existing schools in that area. So
I
like, how
agree
many-
with that, but I think with us already being within the community, I don't think we would necessarily be pulling from those families who are not already interested in attending the options that are available within the community.
There will be 1,000 new units open. We'll be on the first floor, and in that building we're in, there are 1,000 new units that will be available this coming spring. And many of those, more than half of those units are 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units. So I don't think the question is whether we're going to get enough students. I think the question is where we have to have a lot of recommitment students. That's a lot of families moving in with 1,000 units.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other? All right. So unless any of our board members have additional questions, we will be voting on this in February. So I appreciate you guys coming forward and sharing your. I think you're. Oh, sorry. Naomi has another question.
I do have a question. With you're working with a developer, correct? Are they giving you all estimates in terms of like like who's moving into the building?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're.
In terms of is the building market rate? Is there
The building is being built by Douglas Development Corporation.
Like, have they given?
I'm not into their business. I really am not. I'm into trying to lease a space in their building, which I was fortunate enough to be able to do.
Right, and I guess the question I'm trying to ask is whether or not they have an estimate of how many families are going to be moving into the building. Where you're saying there are 1,000 units.
They do. They have a number of two-bedroom units and some 3-bedroom units and some just 1-bedroom units. But it's going to be approximately 1,000 units. It's really 3 buildings joined as one.
Understood. Because I've lived in the neighborhood for quite some time, I guess the point that was made, although it was about another school, the idea of who's moving into a 2- and 3-bedroom unit looks very differently now than it did 25 years ago. And whether or not they're actually families that are going to be moving in versus unmarried folks who are going to have roommates. or people who just want more space versus families moving in?
Yeah.
And if you had any conversation with the developer about what their estimates are?
I don't have any exact numbers other than that they have multiple units and they are expecting families. If they were not expecting families, they would have put that unit to its original use, which was retail. But they believe they have enough families coming in that having a school in there would be a very attractive asset for them. Otherwise, they would not have done that with us. And that's the best answer I can give you. I don't have numbers from that at all. But it's a lease with them, and they believe that that's going to help them with their units.
I think just to follow on from Naomi's question, to the extent that you could get some additional information from them as to who they anticipate being in the building, given that that's just we would add to the conversation around need and would address some of the concerns I think that were laid out earlier.
The representatives of Douglas Development Corporation actually toured our schools to see what kind of schools we were running. And it was on that basis that they came back to us and said, we'd love to be able to lease to you. We're going to change what we're doing and put it up. So they believe there will be families moving in, and they think they will be having children, and they think that going through grade 3 is absolutely perfect for them, that when the children get beyond grade 3, families often, and Douglas Development has been doing this forever. They believe families will start looking for a place with some lawn or further out, and either moving to Ward 3 or Virginia or places like that. That was my conversation with them. I can ask them how many they expect to move in, but their guess is going to be like anyone else's guess. They're going to take who comes.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we're going to do.
I think I think it'd be additive to the record to have their guests and as things are shaping up.
Okay.
So,
yes, I will do that.
Excellent. Thanks to the
it?
Eagle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just I also.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Steve. I didn't see.
Just to follow up on this, I think what folks are getting at is if this is a new development that's being leased or sold at market rate, it's going to be a very different demographic than you've served. And that will have implications for the strategy for putting an instructional plan together. But me personally, I think the idea of socioeconomically and racially integrated schools is a wonderful one. But if that's not what its school has been doing, and they're shifting to that, there are all kinds of challenges and considerations that need to be taken into account.
I was going to say I would invite you to our Ward 6 school to look to see what we have. Go ahead, Karen.
I think, I told the team, I'm Karen Alston, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, and I told the team specifically that I was not going to speak tonight, but here I am. So first of all, I would invite all members of the board to view our Ward 6 school. A question I am asked probably every other week by a member of the press is to send me a photo from our Ward 6 school. Our Ward 6 school demographic is completely different from our Ward 8 school demographic. I'll be very honest and very frank. And so we have had to change internally, and my boss is here. I'm constantly beating him over the head that we have to change our own internal messaging and how we are messaging to the community and the community's comments to us. So, and one of the things that reporters reach out to me for is I always post photos of the first day of school at both campuses. If you go on our social media sites and take a look at that, you can see that. So it's been great for us because the parent engagement in our Ward 6 school is starting to implicate the parent engagement in our Ward 8 school. And the parents were very adamant that we stay in Ward 6. There was news articles, we've had parents reach out to the mayor's office. They wanted us to stay in Ward 6, and to Joe's point, we have been in Ward 6 since our opening in 2003. So even the concept of us marketing to other schools, to be honest, and I'm the person in charge of marketing, we have demand from our parents at our current school who want to come. So that is my priority, is really marketing the people who are calling us every week saying, is there a space? Is there opportunity for my child to come? And then after we get that settled, think about, is there anything else we need to do? And we also realize the construction that's happening there, the bridge that's coming in, this new development. And I hear you, Naomi, that of 1,000 units, maybe 20% of that would be people with children, because the changing neighborhood, that changing dynamic, what's happening over there with the baseball stadium, the apartments, the condos, everything that's happening along the wharf. We all see it, we all know it. So I'm excited about this opportunity because I think there'll be great think pieces and great articles and great documents that we can begin to develop on not only mixed incomes, but the opportunity to have a successful school of all types of demographics that is great example of the city and a great example of parents working together.
Thanks, Karen. All right. One last time. Thank you.
I'm open, whatever you want to do.
I think we're good.
People, so.
I think we're good. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Joe. Thanks, everyone. All right. Nikhil Meridian?
Yep. If
All
the
right. Team Meridian.
Yep, Team Meridian wants to join me at the dais. This is a public hearing to discuss Meridian Public Charter School's amendment request to relocate its middle school program to a new facility at 770 Kenyon Street Northwest, effective for school year 2020-21. If approved, students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 5th will remain at the same 13th Street facility, and students in grades 6 through 8 will move to the new site, and the school will continue operating its program as a single campus across 2 facilities in Ward 1. Representatives from the school are here to answer any questions you may have, and they'll now introduce themselves and give any opening statement they may have.
Good evening, members of the Public Charter School Board, staff, and members of the public. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you about our request to move our middle school campus to a permanent location. My name is Shelley Anderson, and I am the very proud principal of Meridian Public Charter Middle School. I am joined today by our head of school, Mr. Matt McCray, board chair Edie Ashton, and finance committee member Mommy Richards. After a multi-year community engagement process and a long-term search for a new facility, we are very excited about the possibility of moving to a much larger permanent facility. Just 3 blocks from our current incubator space, just a short walk from where we are tonight. While we were excited to grow and open a separate middle school campus in the 2015-16 school year, knowing that school facilities are extremely limited in Ward 1, we moved into our current incubator space on a temporary basis. We began looking in earnest for a new space at the beginning of last school year as we worked to complete our 20-year charter review. If approved, this move will allow us to serve our students in the way we always envisioned we would. Currently, our school is housed above the CVS, right up the street on 14th Street and Irving. We have no gym, no cafeteria, limited common space, and no outdoor space. The new and recently renovated facility includes a gymnasium, sufficient classrooms to allow us to grow from a current 6th through 8th grade student population of just under 150 to a campus of 300 plus students, equipped science labs, and other regular school-based amenities that our current space lacks. You have heard some wonderful testimonies from 2 of my students. I was very proud of them. You've heard from some of our parents. You heard from our PE teacher. And I know that there have been other families and parents who have also submitted testimony. They can tell you in detail about all of the supports that we need. I believe that it's important to note, as I said, as the proud principal, that even in our limited space, we have definitely positively impacted students in the community we serve. We currently have the most diverse student body in this, one of the most diverse student bodies in the city, and we were recently recognized as being a leveler school because of our outstanding results with closing the achievement gap for at-risk students. We currently have a 3-star rating, which meets or exceeds the star rating for all other Ward 1 middle schools. Last year, 100% of our 8th grade students successfully navigated the lottery system, and all were accepted to one of their choices, and nearly half of them were accepted to a Tier 1 school or a selective high school. We also have many innovative partnerships and programs, including a partnership with American University, who comes in and partners with our social studies department to teach civics, and our partnership with One World Education, which provides curriculum and an opportunity for young people to speak like they did tonight in front of people like yourselves. I am excited to lead our students and teachers to even greater accomplishments when we truly have a space that can accommodate everything that we have the potential for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. As a relatively new head of school, I started in July, I want to echo what Shelley has shared with you. I've engaged extensively with our parents and extended Ward 1 community over the last 6 months through one-on-one meetings, parent forums, and community meetings, and I'm happy to say that everyone has expressed strong support for this move. It will allow us to realize our long-term vision of building a school that is both deeply integrated into our community, where students can learn and grow inside and outside of the classroom. As our financials demonstrate, we are in an excellent position and are well equipped to manage this move. Additionally, we have demonstrated strong academic growth over the last several years, surpassing all but a few schools in the city according to the performance management framework. This move will allow us to expand and deepen a strong middle school program, better serving our student population and the larger Ward 1 and DC community. It is a win for our families and a win for all of DC. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Matt and Shelley. I'm Edie Ashton, and I'm the chair of the Meridian PCS board. I can tell you that this proposed move is something that the board has been working on with the school community for several years. We conducted surveys and met with parents and families in school year 17-18 and 18-19 to learn about their hopes and dreams for their children. Virtually all of them expressed a desire for a middle school campus that would allow us to expand programming during the day and after school, to offer more athletics, arts, and activities that will keep our students engaged and enriched. To that end, we have been searching for a facility for more than a year now. We engaged with a realtor that specializes in school facilities and have toured buildings all over Ward 1 and the rest of the city. When this space became available, we visited and responded to the RFP. This is by far the best facility we visited. It is close to both our current middle school location as well as our existing elementary school campus. It's larger and better equipped, as you heard, and since it's in a residential neighborhood, arguably safer than our current middle school. It can serve as a permanent home for Meridian's PCS Middle School for years to come. Thank you for your consideration, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
This will be a joint effort to answer questions, so I don't know how we want to.
All right. Naomi?
So what's your, like, where are you in terms of your discussions with the city?
In what regard specifically? The terms of the lease, the plan currently is to take over the lease as Chavez had it with the city as well. An identical lease to what they left.
And when will that be finalized?
We're in the process now. I don't have a set date for you, unfortunately, Rick.
Carter?
How are you thinking about school culture and climate as you're going to now have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in the same building?
I'm glad you asked. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is our school's culture and climate. We have student houses, which is an initiative that started by the Ron Clark Academy. Think Harry Potter. And one of the things that houses do is it instills a sense of community into the students. One thing that we've noticed with the houses is that kids have a sense to get to know each other. They get to know staff better. It gives them a common purpose and a goal, and it has positively impacted our current discipline referrals. We currently have 0 suspensions, which is a huge achievement for us, much different than our suspension rate last year. And just in the faces of the students, the kids who spoke today talked about walking into school and smiling, and that is definitely something that you would see if you came on our campus. So to answer your question, we've started the model and we plan to continue it as we move up.
And this was the first year of that model?
So this is my 2nd year at the school. We started it a little bit last year, but this is the first year where we have really been able to fully use our culture plan as set, and we have seen very, very positive impacts.
Thank you for that. How you approach that similarly for the 6th grade faculty and an instructional team to integrate in with the 7th and 8th grade?
So once a year, we bring our 6th graders up to tour our campus. And one thing that we do is, we did it last year and our plan is to do it this year. As we show them around, we also let them participate in the house system. And so they mimic sort of like what it feels like to be inducted into a house. And one of our sort of like rites of passage with these houses is that we have this big pet rally where they come up with their own chant, and it's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of dancing. There's a lot of booing and trash talking by the other houses. It is very memorable. And that becomes what kids talk about. That becomes what staff talk about. I know last year, it was my first year there, and it was one of those things, have you heard what they're doing at the middle school? Because it was definitely different, and it was something that people were talking about and looking forward to. So I have no doubt that this is something that they're excited about. People have already started to sort of like recruit younger brothers and sisters and friends into which house they think that they should belong to. We have t-shirts, we have colors. It's kind of a big deal.
Thank you for that. But just to clarify, I appreciate hearing about the student experience, which does sound like a lot of fun. The adults that support those kids are going to be an important part of ensuring this process works well. How have the instructional team, the adults that serve the 6th graders, been integrated into this the now middle school kind of environment?
That's a great question. So we do a lot of our professional development across both of our campuses together. So this isn't 2 schools, this is one Meridian community that works hand in hand. Math teachers are comfortable working with other math teachers, ELA teachers with other ELA teachers, and even across content areas, teachers are very comfortable working together. We don't anticipate this being like 2 separate communities having to integrate. As a result of that, we also, in much of our community engagement, also engage our internal community. Staff are very well aware of the move. Staff are very excited for the move. I've had a number of them ask for the opportunity to join the middle school team. We're trying to work out exactly what that would look like, given the split in the campuses being a little bit different. But we have worked diligently to ensure that Meridian is one community and not 2 schools.
I'm going to jump in. I want to start by acknowledging the academic growth that you mentioned earlier for those of us who've been on the board a while and have seen the school evolve and address a number of challenges. So congratulations on that. And then I'll ask, how do you not just continue that, but ratchet it up, in particular with respect to the middle school? So as the middle school principal, what are those academic objectives? So we've heard a lot about the facility and clearly, especially in the middle school years, having a gym and theater space and all of that will add to the experience for students. Specific to academics, how do you see the middle school evolving? What are the plans? Love to hear some more about that.
So the plan is really to move from good to great. We are passionate about being excellent in everything we do and giving all of our students access to the very best, not only with high schools, but also in colleges. One of the things that we've done to prove that is that we've added in a college and career readiness class. It's something that every child takes. And during this class, there's a focus on literacy because that is one of the hallmarks of being college ready. But they also have time where they research colleges and careers of their choice. They also visit local college campuses, and the 8th graders also write their essays for the selective high schools. That is also just one part of our plan to bring in additional classes where our 8th graders will be able to take some high school courses in the 8th grade, which would give them the opportunity to be on that pathway to college that we know is so important that all of our students have access to.
And if you see, you mentioned the literacy objectives and college and career ready or college readiness in the high school classes. If you had to identify one or two specific areas where you'd like to see the middle school performing better that are baked into your objectives for the next few years, what would those be? Would those be the same things, or there?
So right now, our school-wide academic goal is an improvement in writing. We have a push across curriculums for there to be a focus on writing. We know that kids have to learn how to not only listen and speak, but also to read and write well. And part of that is making sure that everyone in the campus teaches reading and writing intentionally and as if that was their objective, because literacy is so important to the welfare of our students. So I would say me as a former English teacher, and then also based on what I've seen from my students, that continues to be a push. We feel that as our students become more competent and confident in their ability to write and to speak and to critically think about what they read, that the sky is truly just the limit. There's no limit to their potential and what they can do in all other content areas.
Just to add on to that, Rick, with only 92 students at our current middle school, we haven't quite hit an economy of scale that makes it really powerful to be able to do things like we would want to do them. Our ELA teacher teaches 7th and 8th grade. He's the only ELA teacher on the campus. Same with math, science, social studies across the board. When we grow to 150 and if our plans to make it to 300 are eventually achieved, we start to have multiple ELA teachers that can look at and collaborate on data and curricular improvement together. We start to have multiple math teachers that can push each other's practice in a way that we don't currently have. I know that Shelley's excited to lead that team and excited to build a team that can not just receive the coaching, but also push each other in their own areas of expertise.
Thank you. Any other questions from our board? All right. Well, again, we'll be taking this up as a vote in February. So thank you all for joining us this evening. So Nikhil, Two Rivers up next?
Yep, Two Rivers is up next. This is a public hearing to discuss Two Rivers Public Charter School's amendment request to relocate its middle school students from its 4th Street campus to its Young campus and reconfigure the school's grade bands. Two Rivers educates students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 8 across 2 campuses, 4th Street and Young. Presently, the 4th Street campus consists of 2 facilities that serve grades PK 3 through 5 and 6 through 8, respectively. The Young campus only serves grades PK 3 through 5. If approved, effective for school year 2020-21, Two Rivers will relocate grades 6 through 8 from the 4th Street campus so that the 4th Street campus will only serve grades PK 3 through 5 and occupy only 1 facility. In turn, the school will add the middle grades program to its Young campus so that the Young campus will serve grades PK 3 through 8 in 2 facilities directly adjacent to each other. Further, the Young campus will be split into 2 campuses and would receive a BMF score separately for its BK 3 through 5 students and one for its BK and one for its 6 through 8 middle school. Therefore, in total, Two Rivers would operate 3 campuses. Representatives from the school are present to answer any questions you may have, and they will now introduce themselves and read their opening statement.
Thanks so much. Good evening. I'm Jessica Wodach. I'm the executive director and one of the co-founders of Two Rivers Public Charter School. I'm also a parent there. I have a 7th grader and 2 alums. And I'm joined by one of our board members, Somil Shah, who's a member of our finance committee and also our strategic planning committee. Thanks so much for having us this evening. So I also wanted to just start by thanking Terry Quinn, who's the staff member at the Public Charter School Board who's assisted us with this. This is fairly straightforward, and yet we needed to go back and forth quite a few times to get this done, so we appreciate the support of the staff. As was explained, we currently have 2 campuses, one on 4th Street and one at Young. We have a middle school building. It serves 150 students. A number of years ago, we opened a new elementary school, so we have 2 elementaries, and the plan was always for the 2 elementaries to merge into one larger middle school. We're at that moment, so our current middle school building is not large enough to serve everybody all together. A number of years ago, we worked with our community to decide where we would site the new middle school. Though there were lots of pros and cons of a number of different sites. The most economical and the one that in the end being most preferred by our community was to build the new middle school at our Young site. There is green space there, and as you've heard from many people tonight, the gym, my friends, the gym. So there is a gym that is currently shuttered at the Young campus that we would be able to renovate as part of the middle school expansion. So the community was excited about us moving to Young. What we would be doing is building a new building on the same property with the Charles Young Elementary School. It would be its own building, but it would be connected with the current building, and we'd renovate a few of the spaces like the gym in the current building as well. We have worked with members of the community because we're already on the site. Really the only sticky situation is around transportation and infrastructure, and we appreciate any and all help on that, but we've been working with multiple city agencies for many years to try and alleviate concerns that we have there. But we've also incorporated that into the design of the new building. Our middle school is a 4-star middle school. That would be the ward's first 4-star middle school. So we'd be excited to bring that to Ward 5. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Great, thank you. Steve.
If I'm recalling your 4th Street campus correctly, you have PK 3 through 5 on one side of the street, and you have the middle school on the other?
That's correct.
What's going to happen to the space where the middle school is now?
Yes, so I think we got that changed in what's in the materials that have been submitted, though that wasn't just stated. So our hope is actually to expand and to use the current middle school building for some of the elementary school. We're currently operating our elementary school at, I believe, 84 square feet per child, which is definitely under what is expected and hoped for elementary schools. So if we could move some of our grades across the street, that would alleviate some of the space. We also have, like I'm sure many charter school staff members, working in closets in very small locations, and so we'd be able to use some of the space for offices as well.
So you would be giving the kids and your staff more space, but you wouldn't, there's no plan to add students to
That's
it?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Your favorite topic, I'm sure, traffic, parking. I've been to the Young campus, and it is a little difficult to drop off. So can you just talk about what you're doing to alleviate any parent concerns around that?
Sure. We have a unique situation at the Young school, and this is a situation shared by Phelps, which is the high school behind us. The road which leads up to Phelps is technically a driveway, or it's not actually a road, and so there's a lot of challenges getting members of different agencies to take care of the road. We've been working with the community at Phelps, and we have some very active parents to try and get that road repaired. So that's one of our challenges, is just that the city isn't taking care of that street. We have built in a turnaround into the middle school design, which we think will help and would allow drop-off. We currently don't have a drop-off option at that campus because the campus is so large, and so there are trade-offs, right? We have beautiful green space. And so that we would be able to do that. And we're also in conversations with the folks at Phelps about some different alternatives as well that we feel like might be able to alleviate some of that congestion. We are working with city council members, and we're trying to work with folks at DDOT as well.
And then what's just been the community's overall reaction to this move? It's a big shift for some families.
I think that it's always hard to change where you're going to school every day or dropping off your children every day, but people have had a really long amount of lead time to prepare for that change. And I think because of the amenities, because they'll be getting a new building, and because we have a gym right now, but anyone who's played against our citywide championship volleyball team would tell you that in order to serve, you actually have to stand next to the door. It's tight. So I think people are very excited about having a bigger gym and kind of better facilities. We've been able to design it so that there's some outdoor space that will be closed, so just available to middle school students and where teachers can have eyes on at all times. We don't currently have that on our very busy 4th Street location. So there's a lot of excitement about the amenities that will be available. I think there's some trepidation about the traffic. We also are losing the closeness of a metro stop, but the majority of our students do not come by metro. They come either by car or by bus, and a smaller percentage who walk. So we think that that will be able to be handled. So overall, people are looking forward to it and excited, and we're having a kickoff at the end of this week with our community, our middle school principal, and our ops team, and we're hoping to give people tours of the gym. My own middle schooler told me already that she wants to be there right away, so she can see that gym. So people are excited.
Awesome. What's the status of the construction at the new campus?
So we have obtained kind of our early permits and are still waiting for a series of other permits to come through. As with all building projects, there's tension. We're still on track for an on-time opening, but we are on top of that. Our board committees are very active in assisting and helping with that. So we feel optimistic, though we also are cautious. We renovated the Young campus in around the same amount of time. So we feel like we've had experience successfully doing this before. We've done, at this point, multiple building projects with our building, so we feel optimistic about being able to open on time.
And what are your contingencies if the timeline is
So
off?
we currently have the middle school building, so that would be the contingency for all 150 of those students. And then we also have some classrooms at Young that are currently used for specials, that if we needed to flex for a month, we would be able to flex for a month. As with many charter schools, we're familiar with making those kinds of trade-offs if we need to. So for example, our Spanish teacher, instead of having her own classroom for a month, might travel to other classrooms, so we could use those classroom spaces at Young. Not ideal, but certainly I think within the realm of possibility. We have enough room for all of the students next year, even without the new building.
Just going back to the 4th Street location, are students going to need to walk between the two buildings during the day?
So we currently do walk between the two buildings. Our middle schoolers don't have very many specials classrooms, so they cross the street multiple times a day for their arts block. Once a month, we cross the whole elementary school to the middle school to have a meeting together in the gym. The idea would be that they would not on a daily basis need to cross the street, that they would be able to have the majority of their classes there. But we are familiar with that. People know that you must use the crosswalk. We can see you from everywhere. So if that was something that we needed to do during the day, we're prepared to make sure that children are chaperoned appropriately.
What is the status of the protesters at the Planned Parenthood next door?
Yeah, thanks for checking. So some of you may or may not know that a number of years ago, when they were opening the Planned Parenthood, there were protesters that came and targeted our students in what was an extremely difficult time for our families and children and staff. The number of protesters has decreased since the Planned Parenthood itself opened. We, of course, have nothing to do with them other than being their neighbors. So I would say on a rare occasion, we did have someone earlier this year yelling at children, and we did just have a lot of protesters, but we've enjoyed, and I think we copied Scott on the thank you note to the police for their help last week. The city has been very supportive in helping us make sure that things stay calm, but for the most part, it has not been an issue in the past couple of years.
So after 15 plus years of founding and then overseeing the school, you're stepping down. And perhaps I'm overly sensitive to business as usual while also doing a search. But this question is more for Somel and speak on behalf of the board. This is, it's a big transition for the school. And you're also taking on a building project, which I'm going to assume and I can see in the notes, requires financing and fundraising and all of that. So how's the board thinking about all these initiatives and then the day-to-day running of the school that you want to continue to get better across, a growing number of students?
Yeah, sure. So I think from a staffing perspective, on the getting better for students, we recently hired a new CAO who's amazing. Kenneth, you should come and visit him, but he will be remaining on, knows the curriculum, is excited to sort of build upon all the successes that Two Rivers has had. So I'm excited about that, as will many other team members be remaining. But we have absolutely huge shoes to fill in Jessica, and we know that. And so we've kicked off a fairly robust sort of engagement process with the Two Rivers community to learn more about what's needed in the next executive director. We've launched the job description in the last few weeks and having a search committee called tomorrow. And so we know that there is a lot that is happening that is great and we want to maintain, and we know that we can continue to improve. On the taking on all of the work at once, the middle school project has been sort of in the works for a long time before we knew that Jessica was leaving. And so given all of the moving pieces and the complexity of facilities in the city, we felt that we needed to continue moving in this direction. We also had a healthy sort of cash on hand cushion. We were able to get financing at very good interest rates. And so from a financial perspective, felt comfortable moving forward with the construction at this point.
And I just want to note that, one, you don't work somewhere and pour your heart into it for a long time and then just up and leave. So they know that I'll be nearby. But also my daughter will be in 8th grade at the new middle school. So
you'll have an eye out. You'll have an eye out on it.
Very involved.
We also heard Scott was looking.
Well, Jessica, thank you for what Scott's maybe not.
Seriously, Jessica, thank you for launching an amazingly great school and for your service to the community.
Thank you.
Okay. Fantastic. Any other questions? Otherwise, all right. Thank you. All right. We are going to switch from a public hearing to our public meeting. And to start with that, can I ask for a motion from our board to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the January 27th, 2020 board meeting agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any nays? No. All right. Agenda approved. Another opportunity for public comment. Should there be anyone who'd like to make any public comment at this point? All right. Are there any public officials in attendance who would like to be recognized? Okay. Well then, we are going to jump right into our charter renewals. Nikhil, you're the man. You're the man this evening. And I think if we go in order, we're going to start with Apple Tree Public Charter School.
Yep. So I'm going to start by just stating the standard for review. So
thank you.
The board will vote tonight on the charter renewals of 4 public charter schools. I'm going to read the charter renewal standard once, and it applies to each school. The School Reform Act requires charter schools to apply every 15 years to renew their charter. The law requires that the board shall not renew a school's charter if, first, the school committed a material violation of applicable laws or a material violation of the conditions, terms, standards, or procedures set forth in its charter, including violations relating to the education of students with disabilities. Or, secondly, if the school failed to meet the goals and student academic achievement expectations set forth in the charter. Additionally, there is a fiscal component to the review. We are required to revoke a school's charter if we determine that the school engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, or is no longer economically viable. So with that standard stated, our first school up for renewal is Apple Tree Public Charter School. Apple Tree currently educates 540 students in grades PK3 and PK4 across 6 campuses in wards 1, 6, 7, and 8. The school chose the PMF as its goals. The school was required to earn an average PMF score of 50% at each of its individual campuses for the past 5 years. Every campus has met the 50% standard, so the school has met its academic goals. Furthermore, the school has also passed our financial and compliance review. Based on these findings, DC PCSB staff recommends that the board vote to approve the school's charter renewal application and renew the charter of Apple Tree PCS for another 15-year term. Staff from the school are here to answer your questions and will now introduce themselves and read any opening statement they have.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Miles. I'm the Chief of Schools at Apple Tree Early Learning Public Charter School. And beside me,
My name is Jack McCarthy. I'm the board chair.
so just a brief opening statement just to simply say thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity to be before you tonight. We've had the opportunity to review the report prepared by the staff. We feel that it accurately sort of captures who we are as an organization, our areas of growth, as well as our strengths as an organization. Apple Tree's been serving DC for 15 plus years, with 15 years as a charter school, and we touch students from all wards of the district. So tonight we're eagerly anticipating and looking forward to an approval so that we can continue to serve the wonderful students and families of Washington, DC. So at this time, we're open for questions from the board.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members. Well, then I will jump in. Sorry, it's a very quiet group right now. First of all, thank you. I mean, for those of us who've been to the schools and had the chance to spend time with you all, really appreciative of the great work you all are doing. And that is reflected when you look at the outcomes across the board in the schools and the improvement over time. There's one campus, though, that stands out and would love for you to address a bit about the Southwest campus and share a little bit about what's been going on there and how you see that community's performance evolving over time.
So Southwest, generally we've done okay there. This year we did, our scores did drop there. And just quite frankly, it was a challenge for us. We had a school leader to leave us very late, late in the summer, like early August. We didn't hire a new leader until August of that particular school year. Following that, she got into a car accident and she was out for several months in therapy and rehab. During that time, we also lost a significant number of lead teachers, social workers, and we were trying to stay afloat as, we were before you a few months ago talking about the closing of our Southwest campus. So across the board, it was just a very challenging year, not an excuse, but the reality that we were facing at the time, and a plan of just really trying to stay afloat and to keep moving in survival. The morale there just was not where we wanted to be. The culture was not our traditional school at the time. I think we had a flood at the school at the same time. The school was closed. It was just a lot happening in that building during that transition period. Also, one thing noted that actually prior to, each year we've seen our scores there be sort of steady, but really what hit us was our PEPR scores. And those PEPR scores dropped significantly that particular school year, which actually dropped our PMF overall in totality. And that was the first time those scores had dropped in the past 4 years. there. And again, our PBERS is just our positive behavior rating scale, where our teachers are looking at our students and just knowing the culture and the dynamics that we were facing there at the time, just did not hit the target where we wanted to be. But as we prepare for next school year and reopen our Southwest campus, one thing that we found across the board that has helped us to be successful is getting leaders on board sooner rather than later. So we're currently in the process of hiring our school leader so that they can start their training and professional development and learning and growing in those opportunities now. We're continue to engage with the community, the agencies in the area, making sure we have staff in place. We are in full recruitment mode right now, ensuring that we have the best people on the bus in the right seats, moving in the right direction, so we don't find ourselves in that situation moving forward. And of course, we secured a location, so we won't have those challenges.
Thank you.
On the other side of that, you saw 12-point increases at 2 of your campuses last year, Douglas Knoll and Lincoln Park. What was that attributed to?
Having amazing leaders, the right talent. Also, we have our own internal residency principal program. Not that individuals coming into our organization who have been principals before can't be successful, but it is a very unique niche in early childhood, and being able to really adapt our curriculum, implement our curriculum, monitor our staff, and those things. So both of those leaders have been through our residency principal program. So we were able to really dig in and train and support them, as well as one of the 2 leaders, they were a very early hire. Matter of fact, last Friday, I think 4 years ago, was when we hired that particular, or last Friday, excuse me, 4 years ago, last Friday, was when we hired that particular individual for our Douglas Knoll campus. So we definitely see getting leaders on board very early, making sure they get the training and support that they need is super essential, as well as the right staff. Our Douglas Knoll campus was a campus in previous years where our staffing model wasn't where we wanted it to be. We had a lot of, we work as a network of schools, and we had a lot of junior staff members, and they did not have the seniority or the experiences. So balancing out that classroom or that building as well to put more senior staff in the building has contributed to that.
Good.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Leah.
Is it cool? At this point, you probably have quite a few alumni. In your research, have you been able to track the progress and success of students that started under your care and have proceeded on through public schools in DC?
Anecdotally, yes. We have been working for 5.5 years to get a cohort analysis of our graduates done, working with OSSI. And fortunately, we have now finally gotten most of the cohorts. We're working with the American Institutes for Research on that examination, and we will be able to give definitive information on that rather than anecdotal. I mean, we have a number of board members who had children matriculate through the school, and they all did well, but we would just like to have definitive information to be able to say how kids are doing. But by and large, it has all been positive. Yes, we look forward to finally 5.5 years to get cohort information. It is a long time, and we really appreciate Hansel Kang and Elizabeth Graginski, who've worked very closely with us and the American Institutes for Research over that time to put that together. We have, but I'm sure that. But
one of the researchers, I think, is now an appointed official in New Mexico.
Yeah. No, well, she was the assistant superintendent, but we have the data and it's being analyzed. So.
Sorry, I had a question. When can we look forward to this? Do you know?
I would hope that later in this calendar year we would have that analysis done, but it really depends on AIR.
Scott.
One of the things that stood out to me was how overall your class scores have improved across the campuses and across the different domains and across the years. Do you have any reflections as to why that's the case? And then perhaps a related question, has the Every Child Ready curriculum evolved over the years, or is it pretty static over the review period?
Yes. So our core values are mission first, trust among the adults, research to practice, continuous improvement, and being solution focused. What that means is that we get a lot of feedback from our teachers all the time. We do listening tours on Every Child Ready, and Every Child Ready is continuously improved. What we do now is very different than what we did 3 years ago. Not radically different, but constantly improved. It is on a technology platform so that it's easier to use. It's faster, better, and we're continuing to improve the technology part of that as well. So it is not static, and it is consistent with evolving best practice is probably the best way to put it. Your other question, Scott, was the class scores? Okay, sure.
So in response to our class scores, over the years we just become more and more familiar with the tool. We have a team of individuals, basically our entire academic team at Apple Tree Public Charter School. They're class reliable, so we go through the training, we become reliable. In addition to all of our school leaders are required to be reliable as well. And we have teachers throughout our organization who are also reliable. Spend a lot of time really analyzing the tool, learning the tool, providing professional development for the tool, as well as getting into our buildings to really see what's happening and being able to give feedback in that area.
This might be a little bit off topic, but I'm curious about the relationship between your charter network schools and your contract schools, and what you share with those schools, what you've learned. Do their scores look similar to yours? Just curious about that relationship.
So in terms of, if I'm fully understanding your question, so really across the board we look the same. Our curriculum is the same, the way we train our teachers is the same, the way we support our school leaders is identical. So we work really, really hard to ensure that we see that consistency across the board. Of course there are variabilities, but generally that's how we support our professional network, PD. We come together, we operate as one organization, even though we definitely have our Apple Tree standalone campuses, as we call our PCS campuses, and our Apple Tree Ad Model campuses, which are partner schools. The scores are class scores are pretty much the same as well. We see areas of growth, we see strengths, but we're training and supporting throughout that process. Did I answer that? Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Otherwise, unlike earlier items, this one actually is up for vote now. So if there aren't any other questions, I would ask for a motion.
I move to approve the charter renewal application of Apple Tree Public Charter School.
Second. All right, I got multiple seconds. I got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? All right, unanimous approval. Congratulations.
Thank you very
and thank
much.
You. Thank you guys. All right. Nikhil, Early Childhood Academy? Mm-hmm. All right. If the Early Childhood Academy team would like to join us.
Our next school is Early Childhood Academy Public Charter School. Early Childhood Academy educates 285 students in grades PK3 through 3rd at a single campus in Ward 8. The school chose the PMF as its goals. The school has met its standard of earning a 50% average over the review period, with an average score of 68.7%. The school has also passed our financial and compliance review. Based on these findings, DC PCSB staff recommends that the board vote to approve the school's charter renewal application and renew the charter of Early Childhood Academy for another 15-year term. Staff from the school are here to answer any questions you have and will now introduce themselves.
Dan Ingram, Principal.
I'm Wendy Edwards, Executive Director.
And I'm Deborah Robinson Foster. I'm the Financial Manager.
Great, thank you. Any opening remarks that you'd like to make?
Sure. So I didn't write anything, but
even better.
We are exhilarated to be at year 15. We started with 110 students in pre-kindergarten in 2 very small community centers that were not built to be schools. Our goal was to be out of those buildings in 5 years. We ended up staying in the buildings for 14 years. We were never able to reach our capacity of 300 students because of the occupancy of those 2 buildings. We have made a lot of progress with academics, with Tier 1 standing. As you know, we have fallen over the last few years, and that's the center of our attention right now, how we're going to get our scores back up to Tier 1 status.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So, with your PMF scores, you meet the requirements for renewal, but there are definitely pretty significant drops over the last couple of years. Just can you go a little deeper and explain, are we measuring the right things? Have you had a change in, what's your explanation for how that?
So as we look at our demographics, what we have identified was a trending up in, first, the number of students with disabilities. It has trended upward for the past 5 years. A trending up in the number of homeless families. That has trended up over the past 3 years. And I think that even though we have put a number of systems in place and programs in place to address that, we haven't necessarily been able to address it as we expected. So we used coaches. We had instructional coaches that began working with us about 3 years ago, and they worked specifically on, one was on pre-K level, one was on K1, and one was on 2-3. We put that in place so that they could support teachers in instruction in the classroom. We found that even with that in place, it did not bring our test scores up. We increased our special education program. We went from 1 special ed teacher to 3. We now have 3 and 2 full-time assistants. We still struggle with our special ed students. So what we decided this year was we needed some external support because internally we weren't reaching the goals that we wanted to reach. We vetted a lot of educational partners and ended up contracting with instruction partners they're out of Tennessee, to support us in finding out first what's going on in our classrooms that is preventing our students from achieving where they should, and then after finding that out, helping us to develop an action plan for improvement. Instruction partners did a walkthrough at which time they determined that what was happening in a lot of our classrooms was that there was high mastery of instructional activities that were not the appropriate level of rigor. So students were getting good scores and teachers were seeing a lot of progress, but they determined that this was not progress at the grade level standard. And teachers were not really aware that they were not teaching at the grade level standard. So because of their work, what we know we have to do is first make sure teachers are able to unpack the Common Core standards for reading and math so that they understand what the grade level rigor looks like and what they need to do to get their children where they need to be. Then secondly, we need to make sure that the teachers are able to deliver that instruction in such a way that the children are engaged, that they are learning, and that the teachers are able to clearly assess whether they are knowing, whether they know and can do what is expected for that grade level. That was a big eye-opener for us as well as the teachers, because our teachers really felt that they were teaching what the children needed to know. And so when it was time for our children to take the tests and they did not do well, there was kind of this big what went wrong. So that's where we're starting with instruction partners. We're putting together an action plan, and they will continue to work with us throughout this school year.
Thank you for walking us through that. So does this partnership applies to this academic year?
Yes.
Cool.
We're working with them now.
Since I can, how has the new new building opened. Can you
Yes,
catch
yeah.
us up on how that's going?
It's fabulous. So we moved in the summer. Didn't quite open exactly when we expected it to because we still had to get our C of O. We got our C of O a little late, but we did move in. The school started on time. Our enrollment went up from 254 last year to 285 this year. So we are headed toward our 300 capacity.
One real bright spot in the school's performance across all the years is your attendance rate. It's very high compared to other schools in Ward 8. It's very high compared to other schools serving young children. Any best practices to share with us about how you have achieved and maintained that?
We have an excellent family support coordinator who reaches out who tracks all of our students' attendance. And when she sees a trend that a child is missing a day, a week, or consecutive days, reaches out to the parents. We have meetings that Mr. Ingram or I attend where we try to provide as much support as we can to the parent. If it, requires us helping the parent understand how to navigate public transportation, get their smart trip cards and get the child on public transportation, or to helping them with a uniform or with food. We try our best to act as a resource for the parents, and because of that, I think our attendance has been strong.
So we started out this evening's conversation with the mayor talking about some of the citywide challenges, of which I would include homelessness, housing insecurity as one. You mentioned that as something that's complicating your ability to serve students as fully as you'd like. I'd love you to share a little bit about what you're doing, even if you're not fully satisfied with it, and any things that the royal we in the larger community, maybe PCSB in partnership with the DME, could be doing to help.
I think when it comes to our families who have homeless status, the best thing we can do for them is help them understand that we are here to support them. Homeless status isn't always something that a parent wants to reveal. And so oftentimes they try to hide it. They may say, I don't need any help from you. But because we have, again, a strong family support coordinator who develops relationships with our parents, they often are able to feel comfortable kind of explaining what their situation is, explaining their challenges. And once we know what their challenges are, then we can try to find the resources to address them. So I think the big obstacle is helping parents feel comfortable to talk with us about what their needs are. Because most don't, they feel ashamed.
And anything we could be doing as a city more generally?
Yeah, I'd love more wraparound services for our students. We have a psychologist who we primarily contract to provide services for our children with disabilities, but we have so many children in the gen ed population because of homelessness and other factors who really need the support of counseling, and so we try to stretch his services as far as we can, but additional services to provide counseling and that kind of support would be awesome, especially in the early childhood level. We have a number of students whom we have tried to find external support for, and what my family support coordinator has found was that most of the mental health services that are provided in the communities start with children that are 7 years old. And our children start at 3. And we have children who need those services at 3. And so it's been really difficult to even point parents in the right direction for support in the community.
Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll take a motion on Early Childhood Academy.
Early Childhood Academy Public Charter School.
Okay, I've got a motion. And, okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No? Unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I believe we now have Hope Community Public Charter School.
Yep. Our next school is Hope Community Public Charter School. Hope Community currently educates 700 students across 2 campuses, Hope Tolson, which serves grades PK 3 through 8 in Ward 5, and Hope Lamond, serving grades PK 3 through 5 in Ward 4. The school adopted the PMF as its goals and committed to meeting a 50% average PMF score at both of its campuses. Hope Community met this goal at both of its campuses, with an average score of 55.6% at Hope Lamond and 52.7% at Hope Tolson. The school has also passed our financial and compliance review. Despite meeting the standard of review, Hope Community PCS did raise concerns with its management organization, Imagine Schools, Inc., regarding the terms of their management agreement and certain aspects of Imagine Schools' performance. The school submitted to DCPCSB a corrective action plan, developed in conjunction with their management organization, intended to resolve these issues, and DCPCSB will continue to monitor the implementation of this plan. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends that the board vote to approve the school's charter renewal application and renew the charter of Hope Community PCS for another 15-year term, with the condition that the school must submit to DCPCSB by June 1st, 2020, a revised management agreement with Imagine Schools, Inc., as well as an assurance that all components of the corrective action plan that has been submitted to us has been executed substantially as described within that plan. And staff from the school are here to answer any questions you may have and will now introduce themselves.
Sean Toll, Executive Vice President for Imagine Schools.
Chris Cody, Board Chair for Hope Schools.
Harun Rashid, Principal at Imagine Hope Tolson.
Kimite Pella, Principal at Imagine Hope Lamont.
Do you guys have some opening remarks?
No, I'll just keep it very quick. I just want to thank the board and specifically Scott's staff for working with the Hope Community Board, Imagine, as we affirm our relationship over the process that we went through with the action plan, as well as looking forward to approval and moving these schools forward over the next 15 years.
Okay. All right. Board members? Steve?
So, thank you for being here tonight. One of the things that jumps out if you look at the Tolson campus and the Lamont campus is that at Tolson, the scores are fairly consistent across the years. At Lamont, they kind of jump up and down. You want to walk us through that? Like, what's the difference between? What do you attribute that to?
Good evening. At Imagine Hope Lamont, over the past 5 years, there has been some fluctuations in our test scores, specifically last school year. Excuse me. There are several factors that we've looked at. In the 2018-2019 school year, our overall performance was 62.8%, and we dropped a total of 10 points this school year. We attributed that to several factors, one of which there was a shift in our academic structure, where the years prior we did departmentalizing within our testing grades, whereas in this past school year we went to a more traditional model where we had some of our teachers teaching content that they weren't most familiar with. So that was definitely a contributing factor. At the end of the school year, there were also some changes that were made in administration. We had a shift in our principal, and myself, who was the vice principal at the time, did shift into that role. And so with any change, there definitely is going to be a shift in morale and some questioning. And so I think those two things were the main components. This year, what we've done to ensure that we don't repeat that, especially in our testing grades, is we went back to the model that has proven more successful for us in departmentalizing our 3rd through 5th grade classes to ensure that teachers who are teaching the content that they're most comfortable and familiar with is again one of our practices. We've also teamed with our national team to ensure that our coaches and all of our teachers are prepared for the rigor that is required for these state standardized tests. We do have some new teachers on our staff, and so in knowing what those shifts did to our test scores last year, specifically, we want to make sure that that's no longer the case this year. There was also a shift in our re-enrollment rate, which could be contributed to several factors as well. Two that stand out to us were one of which were some of our residency issues that we identified throughout the school year. So several of our families were in fact not DC residents, and so that affected our re-enrollment rate. In addition, anytime there is a shift in administration or a change, some parents did have questions and wanted to make sure that they were making the right choice for their students. And so this year we've done a lot around family engagement, one of which being a nationally recognized school of character has really helped our initiatives in recruiting families as well as retaining the families that we have. And so this year coming, we do anticipate that we will remain on the steady rise towards Tier 1.
You're welcome. Thank you for that. On your board, are there currently 3 parent board members?
There's 2 parent board members, one from each school.
One from each school?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Has that always been the case, that you seek to make sure that there are parents from each school?
Yes.
And it sounds like there's one more seat to fill for that.
What was the question?
It sounds like there's one more seat to fill for that.
Yes.
Thanks.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the relationship with Imagine, and specifically as the renewal report points out, the fees associated with management of the school. And so just would like to understand just for the record, what the school gets out of that relationship, because it is such a high annual payment, at least as I'm seeing it. So I think it's a fair question to ask, sort of what does the school get in return?
Sure. So we provide a lot of support to schools from the legal standpoint as well as the academic standpoint. So each of our schools, we have a regional director that would support each of the schools. We also have academic coaches in the schools. We have a legal team, a marketing team that would also assist the schools. Aside from that, there's a national academic and character team. We are a school of character development, so we do have a full team that supports the school. I mentioned marketing is a part of that team. Also, the academic team, our national director of curriculum and instruction, supports both schools. So there's a wide variety of support that is covered within that 12%. And Barry, I don't know if you want to add anything. Barry Sharp is our CEO. Would you like to add anything to?
Very sharp from Imagine Schools.
Yeah, sorry.
Not too much to add. It's a fair question. It's a full service operating agreement. It also includes the back office financial support for the school. There's also in the process of replacing a operating regional director to help support operations from that side. So it's a full service piece. Several people are shared between the school, and many are dedicated from the regional office, which is what Sean runs.
And I would like to follow up. The Hope Community Board has asked a similar question, and Imagine did provide us more with an itemized layout. I don't have the documentation with me of dollar value versus services. And so this was a question that the board has looked into as well over the past 2 years and was provided by Imagine, and we were okay with what was being presented to us.
I ask because, as the report notes, if the Hope Board feels like some of your student progress achievement issues are related to high staff turnover, and there's an observation that you're not able to pay staff as highly given your management fees, it seems like there's a tension there. And so, I mean, I don't know if you guys have had that specific conversation, but I don't know if you disagree with that conclusion, but would just kind of like to hear a response to that.
We have we have talked about that, and we have raised teacher salaries. We put together a market study also. We did look across the district as well, and so we've put together also a task force specifically to look at teacher salaries to ensure that we are paying teachers what they value and to increase our teacher salaries. So we have looked at that specifically and worked over the last year and a half to actually devise a revised pay scale for teachers.
Okay. And do you feel that you've been able to see that result in higher teacher satisfaction or the quality of teachers that you're getting?
Absolutely, and we, of course, we plan to see that even more as we continue. We did raise teacher salaries, and we did receive some new teachers, and just allowing teachers to also feel more valued and to put towards their craft and becoming master teachers. So we have seen that, and we look to see that even more in the future.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Every state, and we'll call ourselves a state for the purpose of this question, evaluates schools differently. But how would you say these schools are performing relative to schools that you support and operate elsewhere?
You mean across the country? You want to take that on?
Address that a little bit. I think in an overall sense, I think we've seen, particularly in the Hope schools, a little degradation in math instruction and math scores, and that's not inconsistent with some of the activity we've seen around the rest of the country in terms of struggling a little on the math side of the equation with higher performance on the ELA front. So you can't really equate the testing scores all across, but in terms of the challenges of dealing with an urban environment versus a suburban environment, it's fairly consistent. Teacher turnover is an issue, not just here, but other places, and so we see that challenge. But knowing that we've got strong leadership in the school, strong principals, that helps us kind of improve, I think, across the board.
So understanding that, so it sounds like there's an academic piece, and then there's a human capital piece here. How is the management organization responding to that? I care most about the academics, but I'm also interested in the human capital piece.
Yeah. From an academic perspective, Sean mentioned we have a national academic and character team. So we have a group that's working with our schools, and somewhat episodically based on whether they're performing really strongly or need help in particular areas, through different levels of ongoing and routine support on the academic side. So we have a group that supports the two Hope schools. It's called the Rise Up team, that meets regularly with local folks, including the coaches that are local, coaches that are regional, from that perspective. So that's part of the academic piece to help make sure that we're improving.
And with that academic support, the Rise Up team, the National Academic and Character team, supports the coaches, but also school leadership, provide professional development for school leadership as well as teachers also, and the academic coaches. So it's a full academic model. So they come in and we host them there. When we saw the decline in our math scores and some decline, as you mentioned in Lamont earlier, and the flat rate of scores at Tolson, we did call for that team to come together and to offer additional support for the school.
I had a, can I go? Yeah, I had a related question relating to the services received from the management organization. The school's 2 buildings are leased by the school from a subsidiary of Imagine. Is that? And I was noticing on the on page 41 of the review report that occupancy expenses at the school are 22% of revenues, which is considerably higher than the sector median of 16%. So I guess my question for the board is, do you believe that you're getting market rate for the buildings that you are occupying?
I think the board's still looking into that. As we noted in the action plan, that's a discussion that we are still working with Imagine as we finalize our operating agreement. The lease is also part of what we're proposing new ideas for and new recommendations. So that is part of the discussions that are ongoing. I think the board here would like a better rate as anything, but that's something that we're still looking into.
So I'll continue in that vein of questioning. For Mr. Cody, what recourse do you believe the board has and what conditions would need to be met if in the short term or the long term you determined that the Imagine relationship was not one that you wanted to continue, that the board wanted to not continue or discontinue?
So the board is, over the course of the 15 years, has taken a cultural shift. I'm 4 years into my term on the board, and over the past 5 years, the prior chair decided to move from more of a board that was present, had oversight, to a much more working board. And so, since I'm now probably one of the more tenured members on the board, the working board has moved towards a idea of providing, looking more towards evaluation, putting performance measures in as a board, working with outside entities so we can actually track Imagine's performance and look at, as we said in the action plan, do that twice a year. We were working with SchoolWorks. We brought them in to help the board with a strategic plan in connection with Imagine, so we can actually implement much more of a dashboard that the board can work with to actually track the progress of our schools as well as the management company.
Mm-hmm. And if that's not does not meet the expectations, or the performance doesn't meet the expectations of the board, what recourse do you have as a board?
Currently, or what we are moving towards?
What you're moving towards. So what I'm basically asking is if you would say for the public record what this action plan is moving us toward. So the action plan is moving us towards, prior to the action plan, the board's operating agreement was one that basically there's a 3-year term but had automatic renewals built in that limited the board's ability to, one, evaluate the organization, but having action if there was need to act on the management organization. The action plan that we have discussed with Imagine and are working through will move the operating agreements into 1-year terms that will have each entity will have an option prior to that 1-year closure to release the other one from the agreement. We're also building in 2 performance evaluations. We're restructuring how we view more of our regional office, our academic officer, our financial officers, and the connection of the hierarchy of the school, and then removing, like I said, the 3-year terms and the automatic renewal process of that 3-year terms. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I guess, Scott, question for you. As the board chair who will be signing this renewal, should we choose to renew with this condition by June 1st, what will staff be looking for in order to determine that they've met that condition?
There is a detailed action plan that is contained in Appendix B of the renewal report, and so we will be checking the school's actions against each one of the items in there, and it relates. There, as I recall, there's 4 sections. One is about financial management, one is about enrollment management, the third is about hiring this new regional director. And then the fourth, which we're going to be paying very close attention to, is it has a number of commitments in terms of that Mr. Cody just referred to, in terms of revisions to the management agreement that would provide the board with considerably more authority and the ability to make year-to-year decisions about whether to renew the management agreement.
And if we determine that that is not met, what?
Well, we would, if we determined that it was not met, I would recommend that the board not sign a final charter agreement.
Okay.
Which we have to do before the end of June 30th, or else the school will not be paid in July.
Okay. Great. Just so we're very transparent on what the expectations are.
I have one more clarifying question, is that okay? Mr. Cody, can you clarify for me, on the board, the board selects and evaluates the schools, what's the titles, the CEO, executive director, head of school?
The new titles will be a regional academic officer and regional finance officer.
And can you just confirm for me that it is the board, this board that holds this charter, who has the sole and final decision on hiring and evaluating, selecting that person?
Yeah, based off what the new operating agreement will be, yes.
Okay. And is there a member of the board whose employer is the management organization?
Is there a member of the board
who works for the management organization?
No.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. If there aren't any other questions, I will take a motion on Hope.
I move to approve the charter renewal application of Hope Community Public Charter School with the condition as proposed by staff.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any against? No. Okay. Congratulations, and we'll look forward to the approach of June 1 and finalizing those conditions, or finalizing your meeting of those conditions. Thank you. And the last renewal application for the evening, Youth Build.
All right. Our final school of the night is Youth Build Public Charter School. Youth Build is an adult school serving 118 students aged 16 through 24 at a single campus in Ward 1. Pursuant to its charter agreement, the school committed to meeting 6 goals specific to its mission. Youth Build fully met all 6 of its charter goals. In addition to its goals, Youth Build has shown strong performance on PCSB's Adult Education Performance Management Framework. The school has also passed our financial and compliance review. Based on these findings, PCSB staff recommends that the board vote to approve the school's charter renewal application and renew the charter of Youth Build for another 15-year term. Staff from the school are here to answer your questions, and they'll now introduce themselves and state any opening statement they may have.
Thank you.
Can you turn on your mic?
Oh, my apologies. All right. I'm Steve Lanning. This is head of school Claire Liebert. We have Suraj Patel, who's one of our board members, Noel Bravo, another board member over there, and Mary Blatch, another board member in the audience. So let me start by saying good evening, Public Charter School board members, staff, students, families, and members of the public. My name is Steve Lanning. I serve as chair of the Youth Build DC PCS Board of Trustees, and I'm honored to be here this evening on behalf of the Youth Build Board. As I said before, I'm joined here by Claire Liebert, our head of school. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about Youth Build DC. Youth Build is unique among adult public charter schools and high schools, both traditional and alternative, in Washington, D.C. It is the only school designed to help opportunity youth build math, literacy, and employment skills and earn a GED, now a D.C. high school diploma, while at the same time building and refurbishing housing for D.C.'s low-income residents. We are very proud of the accomplishments of our students over the last 5 years, and we are excited about the road ahead. let me turn it over to Claire, who will help you get to know more about Youth Build.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Members of the board, staff, students, and families, I too am honored to be here today on behalf of our students and staff and to speak with you about our program. So this evening I want to share more information about our students, our model, our results, and our vision for the future. First, our students. Youth Build serves so-called opportunity or disconnected youth. So young people between the ages of 16 and 24 who have dropped or aged out of school or have recently immigrated to the United States and have often been out of the school for several years. As you may know, we educate a very high-need student population. So this year, virtually all of our students are low income. Almost 30% qualify for special education services. Approximately 25% are experiencing homelessness. Roughly 20% are parenting, and another 15% speak little to no English. In any given year, between 15 and 20% of our students are actively involved in the justice system, and many have experienced tremendous violence and displacement in their lives. On average, our students have attended 5 to 10 and sometimes more schools before they reach our doors. Case in point, actually 2 of my former students from when I was a 9th grade teacher at Blue High School almost 10 years ago are now students at Youth Build. And while it's heartbreaking to think that they didn't graduate on time, I am so glad that we have a school like Youth Build where they can return and finish the work that they started. So, our model and our team. Youth Build DCPS's goal is to enable students who've often faced tremendous hardships themselves to transform their lives as they give back to the community. So when students enter Youth Build, they learn about the Youth Build model and build resilience, empathy, teamwork, and leadership skills. Once enrolled, students begin academic coursework and earn their OSHA safety certification. Learning then rotates between school and our construction site. And in the Youth Build model, education and training are integrated. So students use real-world challenges from construction and related fields to solve math problems, build literacy skills, and explore science and social studies concepts, such as issues related to housing and income equity. Youth Build's also a dual language program, allowing students to earn their GED and certifications in English or Spanish. Students typically enroll in our school for the school year and then rotate between the classroom and the work site, spending 4 to 6 weeks in class and then 2 weeks on the construction site. Learning is personalized so that students can move at their own pace. While working towards a GED, students can also earn what's called the HBI Pact, or Home Builders Institute pre-apprenticeship certification training, as well as specialized certifications in high-demand fields such as electrical, weatherization, and green building. And as part of this work, Youth Build students have developed, repaired, and renovated housing for hundreds of low-income DC residents. Over the past 3 years, for example, Youth Build students helped build a wheelchair ramp to a previously inaccessible home. They worked with the Brothers of Charity to completely renovate a transitional housing shelter for homeless veterans. And currently, we're working with Central Union Mission right downtown to do repairs and renovations throughout their main shelter. So at Youth Build, construction, service, and community development are vehicles to prepare students for the next steps in their lives. In addition to providing students with a career pathway, construction is a metaphor at Youth Build. As students learn hard construction skills, like how to hang drywall and use a power saw, they also learn soft skills, like employment and career preparation, including the importance of showing up on time, drug-free, and ready to work. Perhaps the school's greatest strength, though, is our community of skilled, caring, and incredibly committed staff. While staff turnover plagues urban education, here at Youth Build, we have a dedicated core of staff members who've been there for 15 to 20 years, since before it was even a school. In addition, we have a number of Youth Build graduates on staff, sort of exemplifying our motto that once Youth Build, always Youth Build. Our case management, operations, transitions, construction, academic, and special education teams collaborate closely to integrate instruction between the construction site and academic program, align career services with industry needs, and quickly identify and address non-academic barriers to student achievement. We also reach outside our organization through partnerships with programs such as ACE Mentoring and the National Association of Home Builders. Through these partnerships, Youth Build students gain access to paid internships, apprenticeships, and well-paid employment. And what results from all that hard work and all those years of dedication? Most of our students enter Youth Build far below grade level, Typical student at Youth Build enters reading at a 4th or 5th grade level and may have years of catch-up work to do before they're ready to earn a GED or enter post-secondary education. Youth Build enables these students to earn a construction certification, access apprenticeships and employment, and obtain living wage construction related work as they move forward in their career paths. As you know from reading our charter renewal report, we have met our charter goals and achievement expectations every year, and we have achieved Tier 1 status for the last 3 school years. Most importantly, we've enabled students to make tremendous progress in their lives. On average, 8 out of 10 of our GED test takers pass the GED, among the highest rates in the sector. Student gains in math and literacy are outstanding. This year, more than 75% of our post-tested students have demonstrated gains so far. We've been recognized for our excellent ESL growth, consistently being among the top 3 performers in the sector. And just last year, more than 75% of exiting students surveyed obtained employment or entered post-secondary education within 3 months of exit. And more than 90% of those students remained employed or in college 9 months after leaving Youth Build. In short, we're very proud of the work we have done, and we're humbled and excited about the work we have yet to do. At this stage, I'd like to introduce Serge, a member of our board, who is going to read a few words from Amira Kamara. She's one of the alumni members of our board. She would have loved to come tonight, but she's actually at home with her son, and so she shared a written statement instead.
Dear Public Charter School Board members, my name is Amira Kamara, and I'm a GED graduate of Youth Build DC Public Charter School. My experience at Youth Build will always be a memorable one. I not only had the chance to learn new skills and earn my GED, but I was recognized for being a leader and a productive young woman. Youth Build taught me how to make a difference in my community by cleaning the environment and building park benches, birdhouses, and homes for low-income families in Washington, D.C. I was also grateful for the opportunity to learn technical skills that will help me gain employment in the construction industry, which will enable me to provide for my family. I am currently in the Year Up program, learning computer and electrical skills, and hope to continue to study and earn my degree in electrical engineering. Youth Build's impact on me was greater than educational. They were also instrumental in helping me get resources like diapers, a stroller, clothing, housing, and also food every month for my family through the Community Schools program. My case manager and staff were very supportive, and they continue to support me even after I've graduated. I'm presently serving on the Board of Trustees for Youth Build Public Charter School. My experience on the board has helped me build my leadership skills and given me insight into how a nonprofit charter school works. I am also a member of the Young Women's Advisory Council of the Washington Area Women's Foundation. A school like Youth Build brings enormous benefits to the youth of Washington, D.C. because it helps them not only earn their GED, but become responsible leaders in their communities. Thank you, Amira Kamara, Youth Build PCS graduate, 2018.
So with incredible students and alumni like Amira, we are very excited about Youth Build's future. We are currently engaged in a strategic planning process with the goal of expanding career preparation pathways for students. So additionally, working with PCSB, we've increased our enrollment cap to 122 students, and we've added multiple enrollment periods throughout the school year. This past year, we served more than 160 students over the course of the year. And with additional funded enrollment spots, we hope to expand and apply Youth Build's unique community service model to in-demand fields such as information technology or healthcare. In short, we are poised to grow, and we are excited about what the future holds. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to share more about our program and our students. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Steve? Or Marissa?
So first of all, thank you. You all do really important work in this city, and you do it well. I have a question about some of the outcomes that are measured as a percentage. For example, GED, pass rates, entrance into the workforce, or post-secondary persistence in those areas. You're crushing your goals around the percentages, which is great. Well done. I noticed that the number of students who are being measured goes up and down pretty significantly. Can you explain to us why we see that big fluctuation?
Yeah, so for example, for GED subjects, it varies year to year, where students come in, right? If the majority of students are coming in at a 4th grade reading level, that year it's probably not going to be a huge number of GED graduates. but that's okay. We're going to focus more on, the growth in CASAS that year, perhaps. Same thing for some of the exit numbers. If a lot of students actually stay in the program longer than that year, you're not going to see a ton exiting. So it just kind of varies. Yeah.
A question that was asked of some of the previous schools, what, in what ways could the city be helpful to you all in the work that you do?
Ooh. What a wonderful question. You were just talking about this. If I had anything in the world for the school, it's when we look at what the students need, right? The things that most frequently get in the way of pursuing their education and coming to school every day and making all the achievement gains that we want them to. I would say first and foremost, which I think you would hear from just about anyone, particularly in our sector, the adult education sector, and the young adult education sector in particular, is access to housing. Those, 25% of our students who are homeless, our case managers work tirelessly to find housing for them. But very frequently, we're relying on the drop-in center at the Latin American Youth Center, which is incredible and helpful, and they do amazing work. But the need is much greater than that. And that 25% is the students who will talk about it, right? There's probably a higher number who will not discuss it still and who are in varying degrees of homelessness, where they're couch surfing, or they're, especially this age group, 16 and 24-year-olds, they're living with friends, they're living with someone for a short period of time. That changes next week, it changes 2 weeks from now. That instability is one of the greatest barriers to their work with us and to their education. So anything we can do around increasing access to housing would be amazing. I think two, in my magic bucket of dreams, would be childcare. For that 20% of students right now who have small children, we do a lot of work around, daycare vouchers, making sure we're getting into spots, but those are the students who found a way to make it work and come to us. There are plenty more students who are not coming to us because they have young children at home and aren't able to make that happen.
I'd like to commend you for the quality of the model you've developed, for your fidelity in implementing it, and for the clarity of your presentation tonight. I have no question. I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you too.
I do have a quick question on engaging returning citizens. It sounded like you have a high proportion of returning citizens. How are you engaging them in the program, and how are you enabling them to work?
Yeah, certainly a big part of that is the intake process. So our case managers meet one-on-one with every single student who comes in the door. There's the whole enrollment piece. We get their residency paperwork. We make sure they're within their age range. But then it's really in that intake process we reassess what's going on. How long has it been since you were in school? And sometimes it's been years. One of those two students of mine from Ballou, he'd been incarcerated for some of that period, and so it's coming back. And there's a lot of work we do around, what does it mean to be in school? Sometimes you've forgotten because it's been so long. You've got to get used to sitting in a classroom again, and how do you do this? But we're very mindful about it. A big part of that too is what we call mental toughness. It's part of the Youth Build model. It's our orientation. So through that orientation week, it's talking about, both what you're getting out of this experience at Youth Build, and also all of the supports we have in place to help you do that. I think too, one of the greatest parts of our program is the construction site. When being back at school is a challenge, you get that reprieve for 2 weeks where you're just hands-on. You're doing work, you're doing something to help other people, and it's a little bit of a relief sometimes, to get back in, and then you come back to school and you're ready to go.
If I could just add, just engaging with students through the years, being the board, one thing that Youth Build does provide a lot of these students is that someone cares about them. And it gives them this real incentive to come back to school, because it's one of the few places where they feel there's a support network, and that's critical to their success.
Just kind of adding on that, it happens sometimes when our students are with us and then they become incarcerated while they are students with us, but they know that as soon as they're released again, we're here for them. And they know they're going to talk to their case manager and then get ready to re-enroll.
Scott, did you have a question?
We had another school serving opportunity youth that came to us and applied for a change in their charter that would have them serve students up to age 30, because they said, frequently they would be working with a student who was, 23, and then that student, or 24, the student would age out at a time when it felt wrong to let that student go. Has that been an issue that you all have faced?
I mean, that happens every year, right? 24-year-olds age out of the program. I think at the same time, though, we're feeling the pressure of demand from younger ages, too, where students are coming to us. The number of 16 and 17-year-olds has increased substantially over the couple of years. And so we're trying to find these alternative paths for younger students, while also recognizing for our older students, when they do age out, either we prepared for them and they've got, career education pathway, or it's, post-secondary education, or we're working with other schools in our neighborhood too, like Carlos Rosario. If we're no longer able to serve you, there are partners who can, and so we kind of have a warm handoff.
So I was 5 years ago the lone dissenting vote in support or lack of support for the continuance at that time. So I really am sincerely glad to see what you guys have achieved, in no small part through the investment and support of an external turnaround firm who I just love you to share a little bit about how you've managed the transition from what I believe was deep support to maybe more coaching, et cetera, and transition on both the board and in the leadership of the school. So you just provide us a little context for the now.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I joined Youth Build in July 2018 as Director of Operations, Andrew Touchette, who'd been the resident leader from 10 Square, he was beginning the handoff to Jason Ellis, who was the head of school prior to me, and he stayed on part-time, like a few days a week, for the majority of last school year to continue that coaching and support, which I also received, and which I continue to receive from other members of the 10 Square team. And it's sort of like the gradual release model, right? They're not a charter management organization, so we've developed those skills. We continue to receive the consultation and support, and it, just decreases a little bit every year, as does the cost. Serge wants to add anything there, but yeah.
And it's going to go till June 2021, so it adds a great level of confidence to know that it's a slow handoff, and so that support's there to build the infrastructure.
I'll say too, it's especially helpful. I mean, we're a very small school. We only have 122 students at maximum, and so being able to work with outside partners to do things like talent recruitment and data analysis sort of across the sector is incredibly helpful.
Thank you. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, similarly, I will take a motion on Youth Build.
I move to approve the charter renewal application of Youth Build Public Charter School.
Second.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Nope. Unanimous?
I just want to be on the record that I'm recusing myself from this vote.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So one recusal, 6 in favor. You are nonetheless renewed. Congratulations. Thanks. All right. Nikhil, you too are emancipated from your place at the front of the room. Okay, what we've got next is our consent calendar, which those of us who follow us regularly know that we are just going to vote on some more perfunctory items. Any recusals with respect to the consent calendar before I ask for a motion? No, you're good. All right. Can I get a motion on the consent calendar?
I move to approve all items on the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's all unanimous. And then any new business before board members, anything? Just going to spend a little extra time together today, discuss anything? Okay, no. And then one last opportunity for public comment. Then I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the January 27th, 2020 board meeting.
Can we get a second?
Aye.
Okay. Second. I've got a motion, and I think that was a second. All in favor? Aye. And Leah, that's an aye? Yes. Very emphatic aye. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
And congratulations.